Hello world, this is Stefan of Lendrigan Games. We finally got the left to right transition animations in. So next up is the attack animations. Oh joy. After that we'll be refining in an official sprite sheet. And yeah, we've had some very significant setbacks. First off, I got the affluenza from a dirty $50 bill I picked up off the street. So, just a whole week straight, I had lost all concept of right and wrong, just spent my time stealing out of the local truck stop. Everyone, get your afflu shots, and if you have any dirty money, please clean it. But yeah, the season is upon us. Be safe out there. Of course, after I regained my cognitive senses, I then had a technical problem. One that would normally be unrelated, but because it happened where I live, it affects me basically. My roommate, his computer is too old for the latest Windows 10 update. So, of course, it took us a while to figure that out, even. Eventually having to talk to tech support. And they revealed us that, yeah, Windows 10, the update is, it very decidedly doesn't like old computer parts. So for a while, in order for him to access social media, I'd been more or less time sharing my computer with him. So that's that. It really threw me off my rhythm. And fortunately, now we've got something set up, and we're get we're getting him new parts, or we're getting him a new computer. uh, so that's things are getting back to normal on the development front. So here's the ramble. Like almost everyone else, I've had the idea in my head of taking up reviewing games or just reviewing media, and eventually I've realized that I just can't do serialized content. But I'm still going to talk about games anyway. And while these won't be professional reviews, I'm just going to title them I Am What I Am Not. I believe it's a Hindi saying, which basically means that as you learn about other things, you also learn about yourself. On a quick digression, if any of you can verify the origin of the saying, please comment it at me. And really, I'm titling it that way because my views on other games affects my vision for my own game. Yeah, like Frank Zappa said, I'm as much negatively inspired to be not like some things as I am inspired to be like others. So I'm gonna. The first game that I've had in my head for a while is Mage Knight Apocalypse. Now, I'm guessing that most of you don't know about the the Mage Knight brand, so I'll just throw in some quick history here. The original incarnation of Mage Knight is a tabletop war game where instead of charts, the relevant information is kept on dials underneath the character so that all the information you need is just readily at hand. And out of this came the more popular HeroClix system, where instead of knights and elves, you have Marvel characters, and eventually DC joined in as well. And then after that, the name Mage Knight Apocalypse was slapped onto a completely unrelated game. Apocalypse is a hack and slash game that initially had me hooked on the concepts behind its mechanics, largely because I'm a sucker for activity-based character growth. Hitting increases strength, getting hit increases health, and using special abilities makes them more powerful. Additionally, in each of the characters' skill trees, it's either 2 or 3, I forget which. The higher the tree's favored statistic, the higher tier skills that the character can access. Alongside player character growth, the 5 selectable heroes eventually combine into an adventuring party. Said heroes are Holius Maximus, the elven Decurion, who's also a military chaplain, Grumpy the dwarf, armed with a shotgun and hand grenades, the Amazon, the vampiress Bloodrain, and finally Gimpy the dragon, who casts fire, ice, and lightning instead of breathing them. When asked to select a character, my first instinct was to grab a healer, because living tends to be a top priority for me when playing hack and slash games, and I prefer to not have to rely on bottles of Pepto-Bismol to deal with the sharp incoming stomach pains. When playing in the first area, I decided to game the system a bit, because breaking a game's difficulty is one of my more insidious pleasures, and work on his priestly skill tree a bit before moving on. The opening ability granted in the tree is a healing circle, so with the help of an opponent, I managed to grind up Holius's health by getting him repeatedly stabbed, his magic by laying down the circle, and his potency with the circle itself. I also managed to unlock a constant chance for him to eat the souls of downed enemies. Redeem the souls of defeated heathens for valuable cash prizes. And I also unlocked the circle of burn. Purification. I noticed another ability further up on the It's a skill vine. It has a central progression and only offshoots instead of branches. Anyway, because the various tiers are locked off until the appropriate stat reaches a certain amount. Because Holius was working the priestly section, he needed to work up his magic stat to acquire more impressive abilities. And near the top is Circle of Taboo, wherein any heathen inside the circle is deemed to have said something anti-Semitic, leading to his being struck down with lightning. Grinding magic from 10 to 15 was a bit of a chore, and I just wasn't bored enough to crank it all the way up to 50 all at once. Still, Circle of Pain worked well enough with wiping out mobs and their souls fueled the righteous slaughter enough to be repeated immediately. I just now remembered while writing this that the first area had a boss fight. It has been, I think, 6 or so years since I played Apocalypse, and almost none of it is memorable. Enemies run at Holius, he gets his god to declare the floor to be lava, he wins. Then he continues on his merry way across the next band of scallywags. I'll return to this aside later, as it came to me only while I was pondering the next topic. After each combat zone is a town in which to relax and buy new equipment and supplies. When I tried to buy a differently colored legionary uniform for Holius, I couldn't help but notice the leaps in strength requirements, making me wonder if shorts in this world are made of interwoven lead, concrete, and cast iron. It ultimately makes sense because game, yes, so my real problem is that better stuff is no more impressive than is the inferior stuff. The silver breastplate isn't particularly grander than the iron one, just differently colored. Purple tunic isn't more awesome than the green one, just purple. I mention this mainly because the game follows the hack-slash-loot formula, leaving the combat to be extrinsically unrewarding, hobbling one of the reasons to continue playing the game. Upon leaving the town to ship out to the next theater of battle, Holius was issued Grumpy as a teammate and was asked to pick Grumpy's specialization. Unfortunately, it was missing the option for me to care. Holius was doing well enough on his own, so having a sidekick seemed superfluous. Together, they traveled through a mine tunnel, if I remember correctly, and I think they killed the boss. Also, somewhere in there, some plot tried to happen. Go to town, meet the Amazon, kill things in the jungle, because Amazons live nowhere else. Rinse and repeat for Blood Rain and Gimpy. I came to realize that Holius was the best choice for the player character because if I hadn't selected him, I would have gone through 4/5 of the game without a healer, as he is the last character to encounter. I hated the game a little for that. The party arrived at the final combat zone. The last boss killed Holius in one shot, and I turned the game off and I promptly forgot about it. Literally, I switched to another game, and it no longer occurred to me that I once played Mage Knight Apocalypse until I deleted it to make room for Knights of the Old Republic 2. The biggest sin of the game is sloth, of course, as it is definitely a low effort product. The more I think about it, though, the more I can't help but wonder if the game even had potential. The elements in the game mesh so poorly that I suspect that the creative lead was experimenting with marijuana for the first time while thinking of the game and couldn't be bothered to find out later what strain he smoked. Apocalypse does make for a useful case study, however. It has helped me realize that activity-based character growth does not mix pleasantly with structure. Activity-based growth is necessarily a free-form process, so sandboxes not only accentuate its merits, they're nigh organically necessary for it to have merits at all. And Apocalypse strangles these merits in a couple of ways. First strangled merit is the bypassing of grind. The great headache of attaching special abilities to skill levels is that the character can now arbitrarily do something at skill level 50 that he was completely unable to do at skill level 49. This needless carrot drives the player to reach skill level 50 not to be better at that skill, but to acquire a completely extrinsic reward. Activity-based growth is a journey, and attaching destinations directly to that journey don't enhance it, but instead interrupt it. Crackdown provides an interesting angle to this, as in that game, growth jumps from tier to tier, greatly improving what the character can do each time. However, Crackdown only amplifies what the character can do with each acquired tier of ability. The only reason that someone can't wait to reach tier 3 in athletics in Crackdown is because that person wants to reach new heights with it, likely ones that he can't yet reach. He doesn't want merely to acquire the ability to jump higher, he wants even more simply to just jump higher. Skyrim's skill progression, on the other hand, is insultingly grindy trash. The other way that Apocalypse's structure strangles activity-based growth is simply by being a linear game. Part of the enjoyment of free-form growth is that the final product can't be predicted. But one of the necessities of linear gameplay is that the person in charge of pacing has to know what the player can and can't do at each beat of the game. The only two outcomes are that either the player character does something unexpected and breaks the difficulty of the game, or as in Apocalypse's case, the possible outcomes are boring in order to be predictable. Dungeon Siege 1 and 2 also had this problem with activity-based growth, and they made the whole affair into merely a gimmick when put into practice, virtually indistinguishable from the experience and leveling standard. I couldn't care enough to finish those games either. In conclusion, I give Mage Knight Apocalypse a pedestrian out of 10.